The worst part wasn't the $2 coupon. It was the sentence that came with it, said softly like a condolence. We didn't budget for you. My boss slid the coupon across my desk with 2 fingers, the way you push a napkin toward a stranger who just sneezed. It was for the lobby cafe, $2 off drip coffee or a bag of chips. No latte, no combo, no substitutions. 2 floors up, the team he'd chosen was boarding black SUVs to a $2,000 steakhouse dinner to celebrate the quarter. I wasn't on the email, I wasn't on the group photo, but I was in the spreadsheet that made the photo possible. I sat there for a second, pretending to read the coupon like it might have fine print that said, "Just kidding." It didn't. It did, however, expire in 7 days. My name wasn't misspelled. They'd gotten that right. Our office looks expensive in a way that makes people speak quieter. 43rd floor, glass everywhere, carpets thick enough to swallow small talk. The kind of place where your badge hums at the elevator and you're supposed to feel chosen. At 6:12 p.m., the floor was mostly empty. The people who mattered were clinking glasses downtown. The people who kept the lights on were still at their desks. I wasn't angry yet. Anger is loud. What I felt was smaller, closer to the bone, like when a doctor says, routine, and you hear the sigh underneath. I turned the coupon over. Blank on the back. No secret map. No magic. My boss, let's call him Damon, leaned on the side of my cubicle wall like a coach giving last-minute advice to the player who wouldn't see the field. "Hey, buddy," he said, in that friendly tone he uses when he wants something to sound harmless. He had the event lanyard already around his neck. The plastic sleeve flashed, "Leadership Dinner," in gold font when it caught the light. "Quick thing," he said. "I know tonight's invite list looked curated." He smiled like we were in on a joke together. "Budget's tight. You get it." I said I did. He tapped the coupon with a knuckle, a playful little knock on wood. "Treat yourself." Then he was gone, the way people vanish when there's a car waiting downstairs. I stared at the clock until the second hand lined up with the minute hand. I did the math anyway. The wine alone would cost more than my car payment. The dessert cart would cost more than my grocery budget. My coupon would make a small dent in a pastry that tasted like regret. If you've ever been the person who keeps the notes, you'll understand this part. There's a silence after everyone leaves that feels like when the ocean pulls back before a wave. The monitors keep their glow, the AC keeps its cold breath, but the building exhales. That's when the real job begins. You reconcile what people said with what they promised. You attach documents to promises. You save things in folders no one knows exist. I opened the deck I'd built for Damon. He'd present it tomorrow as Ika, our team's strategy. He had changes he wanted me to just drop in before morning. 3 pages of narrative framing, 2 revised charts, 1 slide that would sing. I'd already written the narrative. I'd already fixed the charts. I'd already given the slide a melody. He would copy my punchline and deliver it with that proud uncle smile that made execs call him a natural. My phone buzzed. Group chat. 5 fireworks emojis and a photo of bone-in ribeyes, lined like trophies. Someone added, "Wish you were here," with a crying laugh face. I put my phone face down. The reflection in the black screen showed a man in his late 30s whose hairline had surrendered tactically and whose tie had a faint coffee ring from the meeting nobody remembers. The kind of man who stocks the break room with spare chargers and knows where the good pens are. The kind of man people text for templates and quick sanity checks. Useful, replaceable. I wasn't always that man. There was a version of me who believed good work was an elevator. You step in, you hit the button, the doors close, and the building takes you where you earned. Then you learn elevators need a key. You learn some floors don't exist for everyone. At 7:03 p.m., the cleaning crew rolled their carts past my row. We trade small nods, the ones shared by the people who make things look effortless for the people who assume they are. One of the cleaners picked up the coupon where I'd slid it under my keyboard. "You dropped this," she said in a soft voice. Her name is Anna. We've swapped weather predictions and tips about the vending machine that never eats your dollar if you press the top right corner first. I took it back. Thanks, I said. It felt heavier for a second. I placed it in my drawer under a stack of sticky notes, like it might become a story later. I guess it did. On my screen, Damon's notes sat like red fingerprints. Make this pop. Too granular. Can we say we led this? That last one got me. We, the royal kind. I saved my file, then another, then another. Habit. I save under versions like I'm building a time machine. V12, final. V12, final, real. V12, final, really real. I think it started after a manager lost a paragraph I wrote and found it in his announcement email with his name attached. You learn to keep receipts without looking like the kind of person who keeps receipts. At 7:40, the office chilled a few degrees, or maybe that was just me. I stood, my knees popping like bubble wrap, and walked to the window that pretends to be a wall. From up there, the city looked like a circuit board, lit and precise and designed. Foreign cars hummed toward the steakhouse where my team was currently parsing jokes about tomahawk cuts and market conditions like they were the same thing. Somewhere in that dining room, Damon was telling a story with my sentences. He'd add a pause at the place where I'd written one, and 3 people would nod like they'd felt the thought land. He'd lift his glass. He'd toast to the people who got us here. He would not look in my direction because I wasn't in the room to be looked at. There's a kind of math you do in those moments, not the numbers kind, the math of worth. You add up your weekends, your late-night edits, your quick turnarounds, your patience when someone calls your work nice, like they're complimenting a haircut. You subtract the lanyards you don't get, the introductions you aren't given, the meetings where you present to someone who thanks your boss for the clarity you brought to the project. You divide what's left by your rent. The remainder is what sits in your chest and hums. I pack my bag like someone leaving a hotel room. One by one, the items return to their places. Notebook, pen, backup pen, phone, charger, the USB drive I don't trust but can't throw away. The coupon stayed in the drawer. I couldn't bring myself to take it home. There are some things you don't want to explain to your own kitchen. On the way out, I passed the wall of framed photos. Holiday parties, off-sites, charity runs. Damon on a rooftop with a city behind him, sleeves rolled, grin that says he's about to say something the group will love repeating. I wasn't in those photos either. Maybe because I was behind the camera. Maybe because I was behind the spreadsheet. Maybe because I was behind the idea that made the photo happen. In the elevator, it was just me and my reflection in stainless steel. The doors closed with that soft corporate whisper. I watched the floor numbers count backward and thought about the sentence again. We didn't budget for you. It wasn't even cruel. That's what stung. It was administrative. A shrug turned into policy. A meeting note that became my evening. Outside, the night air was the kind of warm that makes you believe morning will be kind. I walked past the line of ride shares, each one an open mouth with climate control. Somewhere downtown, someone lifted a glass with my work inside it. I imagined the sound it made when crystal touched crystal, bright, brief, dissolving into laughter. I didn't imagine being there anymore. The picture snapped into focus. If they couldn't budget for me, maybe I could start budgeting for the truth. I didn't know what that meant yet. But I knew 2 things. First, I was done translating my value into coupons. Second, every story has a receipt. You just have to know where it's filed. I turned the corner toward the subway, pulled out my phone, and opened a folder I'd never shown anyone. Inside were versions of something Damon would present tomorrow, drafts with timestamps, emails with his quick ideas pasted over my paragraphs, calendar invites with my name as organizer and his as presenter. Nothing dramatic, nothing that screamed. Just the kind of quiet proof people ignore until it's printed. A breeze moved through the street like an answer. The city didn't care about my coupon or their steakhouse. That felt honest. Honesty is a good place to start. but that was just the beginning. 2 days later, I watched Damon deliver my deck to an audience that clapped for the wrong person. The boardroom smelled like expensive coffee and insecurity, that faint sweetness of people trying too hard to sound confident. Damon stood at the head of the long glass table, his sleeves rolled up exactly 2 turns, his voice carrying that perfect corporate warmth. He spoke in headlines, not sentences. Our Q2 growth was driven by strategic alignment, he said, and a slide flickered behind him. One I'd built at 2:47 a.m., matching fonts until my eyes stung. The same slide that used my phrasing word for word. Strategic alignment is not a buzzword, it's a bloodstream. The executives nodded, murmuring approval. My bloodstream froze. I wasn't even in the room. I was watching the live stream from the small, overflow conference space, where support staff sat on plastic chairs. The kind of room without bottled water, where the coffee machine leaks if you press too fast. Someone next to me whispered, "He's good?" I smiled without showing teeth. When the meeting ended, applause echoed through the speakers. Damon bowed slightly, like an artist after his solo. Then, right before the stream cut off, I saw it. The CFO patting him on the back, saying something I could read on his lips. "You nailed it. You've got vision." He didn't have vision. He had my Google Drive. I went back to my desk. The team filtered in from the boardroom like actors after curtain call. Their laughter bounced down the hall, sharp and hollow. "That was amazing," one of them said. "You crushed it," another added. Damon passed my cubicle and dropped a folded napkin on my keyboard. Inside was a half-eaten macaron. "They were handing these out in there," he said. "Figured you'd want one." I stared at the pastel shell, the small bite mark. "Thanks," I said. My voice didn't crack. That felt like progress. For the next few hours, I did what I always did, the invisible maintenance. Updating numbers, formatting slides, catching typos that could tank credibility. Every minor adjustment that made Damon look polished. Every quiet act of loyalty that would never have my name attached. At 4:17 p.m., he leaned over my partition. "Hey, champ, can you push the news summary live before tomorrow? Oh, and big news, corporate approved bonuses for Q2. I looked up. "Nice," he grinned. "Yeah, everyone who was on the leadership dinner list gets one. Guess we made an impression?" He walked away before I could reply. Everyone who was on the list. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but they wouldn't move. I kept staring at the spreadsheet until the numbers blurred, like the page was underwater. A noise escaped my throat. Not quite a laugh, not quite a sound you make in public. That night, I stayed late again. The office was a ghost version of itself. Monitors glowing like low fires. Keyboards waiting for hands. I opened my email drafts. Found the one I'd started months ago and never sent. Subject, credit, attribution. "Hi, Damon. I just wanted to clarify the authorship on the upcoming presentation." I deleted it. What would be the point? People like him didn't need clarification, they needed mirrors. So I started collecting them. Tiny things at first. Screenshots of project handoffs. Version histories that showed my name before his. Calendar invites where I was the creator, him the guest. Slack messages where he asked me to clean this up before I send. The small fossils of truth everyone ignores until they're arranged. Each file went into a folder called Budgeting Truth. It felt childish at first, like naming a diary, but the title made me smile. Damon hadn't budgeted for me, but I was budgeting for him. By Friday, the whispers had started. HR wanted to sync about department credit distribution. Finance had flagged some inconsistencies in Damon's expense reports. Apparently, the team dinners he'd been charging were labeled as executive mentorship sessions. One of them I noticed was dated the night of that $2,000 steakhouse meal. I didn't say a word. Not yet. The following week, he called an impromptu alignment huddle. Translation, damage control. The tone in his email was off. Too chipper, too forced. The meeting was in the big conference room this time, the one with the good lighting, where people sat straighter. "All right, team," Damon began, clapping once like a coach. "There's been some confusion about budgets and reports. I just want to clear the air. We're solid. We're a family." That word, family, made my stomach turn. Families don't hand each other coupons and call it appreciation. Families don't steal each other's sentences. Someone from finance asked a question about missing receipts. Damon's smile cracked just a little. He said he'd look into it personally. I watched him and something inside me shifted. It wasn't rage. Rage burns out fast. This was colder, sharper, like a scalpel instead of a match. I went home that night and pulled up Budgeting Truth. The folder had grown fat. Screenshots, invoices, time-stamped edits. I scrolled slowly, each file another piece of quiet evidence. It was almost beautiful in a forensic kind of way. Halfway through renaming the last document, I caught myself smiling. That scared me a little. Revenge shouldn't feel clean. But this wasn't revenge, not yet. This was correction. And maybe, just maybe, I was finally learning what it means to budget properly. Not money, not hours, but fairness. I didn't know it yet, but that decision would cost them everything. It started with a coffee cup. Not a metaphor, a literal paper cup, half full, sweating on the edge of Damon's desk. He wasn't in yet, but the smell of his cologne already was. That citrus wood blend he used to smell more expensive than he actually was. The office was quiet, the kind of quiet that amplifies mouse clicks into percussion. I had come in early, not because I wanted to, because I was ready. That morning, Budgeting Truth became more than a folder. It became a plan. I transferred everything, screenshots, invoices, emails, the works, onto an encrypted drive. One copy went to my home computer, one to a flash drive I kept in my jacket pocket. The third I uploaded to a private time-stamped cloud archive. If this was going to burn, I wasn't going to be standing too close when it did. By 9:15, Damon breezed in, all smiles and shallow charm. "Morning, buddy. Big week, huh?" He clapped me on the shoulder like a friend. I didn't flinch. "Yeah," I said. "Could be." He didn't notice my tone. People like him rarely do. That week, he was supposed to finalize the quarterly compliance report, the one that outlined budget allocations and signed approvals, the same report that contained 3 fabricated team expenses. I knew because I'd filled out the real ones months ago. Damon had copy-pasted numbers, swapped descriptions, and approved himself for reimbursements that didn't exist. The pattern was neat. Too neat. A man who's never been caught is always tidy. I spent the next few days orchestrating quiet chaos. Monday, I scheduled a data review with the compliance officer, just me and her. I told her Damon had asked me to double-check our backup ledgers, pretending to sound worried about missing entries. She thanked me for the diligence. Tuesday, I dropped off 2 manila envelopes with the internal audit team, labeled Q2 Expense Verification Draft. Inside, the originals and Damon's edited versions side by side. No commentary, just math. Wednesday, I CC'd HR on an email about clarity of project authorship, attaching a presentation timeline that showed Damon's initiative, predating his own involvement by 23 days. Thursday, silence, the kind that feels like someone holding their breath in a crowded room. I knew the storm was forming. By Friday, it broke. Damon burst into my cubicle mid-morning. His voice had that sharp edge men get when they're used to being respected and suddenly aren't. "Did you talk to compliance?" I didn't look up from my screen. They asked for clarifications. I sent them what I had. He stared at me, waiting for guilt. I gave him none. "You had no right to dig through those reports," he said. "Actually," I replied calmly, "it's my job to maintain financial documentation for audit readiness." He opened his mouth, but words failed him. He was realizing in real time that the paper trail wasn't mine anymore. It was the company's. He stormed off. 10 minutes later, I saw 2 security badges, compliance and HR, head into his office. They closed the blinds. I went back to work, updating the spreadsheet as if nothing had changed. At noon, my team's chat lit up like a fire alarm. HR official. Effective immediately, all department leads are to submit expense approvals for review. Compliance. Please ensure all financial sign-offs from Q2 are forwarded to audit. No names, no details, just procedure. But in offices like ours, procedure is punishment. At 2:04 p.m., Damon's door opened. He stepped out, pale and hollow-eyed. No smile, no swagger. 2 people followed, one from HR, one from security. He wasn't handcuffed, of course. This was corporate America. Here, handcuffs come as calendar invites. He walked past my desk without looking at me. The silence was so heavy it made the air hum. His lanyard hung from his hand, the same gold font badge from that steakhouse dinner. He set it on the receptionist's desk as he left. The elevator doors closed. The floor exhaled. No one said anything for hours. Then the whispers began, low, cautious, delicious in their guilt. Did you hear? Expenses? Audit? Damon? No way. That night, I stayed late again, not because I had to, but because I wanted to see the office empty. Truly empty. The chair at Damon's desk was turned slightly toward the window, like he'd been caught mid-pose. His desk was already being cleaned out. Someone had placed his mug, world's best leader, upside down in a cardboard box. I sat there for a moment, watching the city bleed into twilight. Every light below looked like another story, another person thinking no one saw their effort. I thought about the $2 coupon still in my drawer, about the phrase, "We didn't budget for you." I smiled for the first time in weeks. It wasn't victory. It was alignment. The math was finally even. But the story wasn't over yet. HR had offered me an interim position, acting team lead, until we restructure. I said yes, quietly, calmly. That night, as I packed up, I saw the reflection of the office skyline in the window, my own reflection at the center. That night, I stopped being the hero. 3 months later, they gave me his office. No ceremony, no handshake, just an email from HR. Your access level has been updated. When my badge hummed green against the door, it felt unreal. The same sound that used to mean you belonged just enough to get in, but not enough to be seen. Now it meant the opposite. The room was smaller than I remembered. Maybe because it wasn't his anymore. The glass that used to intimidate me just looked like glass. I set my coffee down. Real coffee, not from the lobby cafe. Bien what, and opened the blinds. The city stretched beneath me like a living circuit again, but this time I wasn't looking up at it from a cubicle. Damon's nameplate was gone. Mine wasn't up yet. I didn't rush to put one there. I liked the quiet space between things, the moment after something ends, but before it's labeled. The company had tried to bury his exit in corporate language, in light of internal restructuring. But everyone knew. The truth travels fast when it's been waiting that long to be heard. And the funniest part? The department ran better without him. The meetings got shorter. The work got clearer. The team, the same people who'd laughed at steakhouse dinners, now looked at me with a mix of confusion and gratitude, like they'd woken up from a long, comfortable lie. One afternoon, a new intern stopped by my office. She was holding a stack of budget drafts. Nervous, too careful with her words. I don't think I'm supposed to approve these yet, she said. They're marked for the leadership review. I looked at her name tag, Alicia. You're right, I said. But tell me what you think anyway. She blinked, caught off guard. Really? Yeah, I said. You did the work, didn't you? That tiny smile she gave me, that's the kind of currency you can't fake. Later that night, when the office was empty, I went to my old cubicle. Everything looked the same hum of the lights, the faint smell of toner, the same dent in the chair from years of quiet hours. In the drawer, under the sticky notes, the $2 coupon was still there. Faded. The edges curled like paper that's been waiting too long to be touched. I picked it up, turned it over, and smiled. It wasn't anger anymore. It wasn't even irony. It was closure. Because that coupon, that stupid, humiliating token, was the only thing they ever gave me for free. Everything else I had to earn. Every inch, every late night, every quiet moment when I could have spoken but didn't. And now, when people pass my new office, they stop to ask for input. Not permission. Input. It's a small difference, but it's everything. A few weeks later, the company sent out a mass email announcing the new full-time department head. Me. There was polite applause at the next meeting, and someone even brought cupcakes. HR tried to make a speech, but I waved it off. "Let's get back to work," I said. The team laughed softly, not out of fear, but comfort. Before the meeting ended, I pulled something from my pocket and placed it in the center of the table. The $2 coupon. It was quiet for a moment. Then one of the analysts, the youngest guy in the room, asked, "What's that?" "Budget history," I said. "A reminder." They laughed. I didn't. Not fully. When the meeting ended, I watched them leave. The same way I used to watch others leave for dinners I couldn't attend. Now they nodded as they passed. Not because I was their boss, because they saw me. That night, I stayed late one last time. Not out of habit, out of peace. I finished my reports, dimmed the lights, and stood by the window. The same one where Damon once stood rehearsing his stolen sentences. Down below, the city glowed, not gold, but steady. Honest. I realized I didn't need revenge anymore. I'd already rewritten the story just by surviving it right. I folded the coupon once, then again, and slipped it into the drawer of the new desk. Maybe one day someone else would find it. Maybe they'd need the reminder too. I turned off the light, my reflection vanishing into the dark glass. They thought I wanted their dinners, their tables, and their approval. I never did. I just wanted a seat that no one could take away, and now I had it.